What's up guys, this is Lenny, your fan of stuff to you, and today I wanted to make my card review for Kobolds and Catacombs, and I'm going to do it a little bit differently than I did the last time for that very unfortunate card review I did for the other set.
People are going to be running and being like, oh my god, Hunter's so stupid, so broken, oh my god, we have to do something about Hunter, right? Because so many one-drops and so much synergy and such strong cards. Their quest is fucking terrible, I think.
What I was gonna do is I'm going to just sort of cycle through all the cards, and I'm using GameSpot because it lets me do this with the images, and it's very easy to do. So I'm just gonna go through pretty much all the cards. They're not gonna be in any particular order, and I'm just gonna give them a review. Either it's gonna be really bad, bad, meh, really good, or OP. Sorry, let me rephrase that. Really bad. Let me actually write this down because I'm going to fucking forget it. Holy. Really bad. Bad. Meh. Good. Really good. And then it's going to be the big OP at the end. And that's going to be for the OP shit, okay? So we're going to start this off. Hopefully we can get through this really quickly because I don't like doing really long reviews because hearing myself speak and trying to edit it makes me want to kill myself. So this should be really easy. Okay, here we go. So, Guild Recruiter. This card is bad. Rin the First Disciple. This card is good. Carnivorous Cube. This card is meh. Bad. This card is really good. Why is Marn really good? Marn is really good because the chest loot lets you combo like motherfucking crazy sometimes, okay? The reason I'm deciding to do this bad, really good thing is just so we can get through it really quickly, and then at the end I'll tell you the cards that I think are the best and which ones are going to see play. So I don't have to sit here discussing each individual card for like 5 minutes. Feral Gibber is a terrible card. This is a really bad card. Dustbreaker is fucking P. This card is busted out the ass. Let's not even have to discuss that too much. Katharina is really good card. Rummaging Kobold is a meh card, you know, just meh. Zolo the Gorgon, in my opinion, I want it to be a good card. I want it to be a really good card, sorry. But it's just a good card. It's only good. That's all I can give it. Spiteful Summoner is a really good card because in Big Mage and in Zulok you can run it, and you'll always get a huge minion, which is going to be really good for your thing. Seeping Oozling is a good card. It's not terrible. It's pretty good. It's good. It's not really good. It's just good. Lone Champion, I'd give a meh because I think personally that Tar Creeper is just a much better version of this card. We go on to the next one. Silver Vanguard. This card has a lot of combo potential, but it doesn't make it quite on par with the other really good cards. So I just give this just a good card because it has the ability to do some shenanigans, but it's not too OP. Raven Familiar is a really good card in Big Mage, draws you a card. Grumbling World Shaker, I want it again to be a really good card, but I don't know if this card is good enough to push Elemental Shaman to the point where it's OP, so I think I have to give this and most Shaman cards in this set just a good rating. So Grumbling World Shaker is just going to get a good. Grizzled Guardian is just going to get a good rating. The problem is that it's not enough tempo on turn 8. Actually, I'll give it a meh rating. It doesn't have enough tempo on turn 8 for it to really make it count. And if anything happens to it other than death rattling and proccing 2 4-cost minions that are exactly 4, you lose out on a lot of value. King Togwaller, I give this a bad card. I don't know the combo. Like, this card seems really bad because it doesn't combo with anything really. I guess you can swap decks and then deny their spell with like the fucking counter spell, but typically, like, what are you doing? You're giving them your deck, and then they're just going to take your deck, and they're just going to kill you anyways, because you're playing a King Togwaggler deck. Like, I don't think this card is very good, personally. But I don't know where it would be played or what it would be played well with, because any situation I come up in my head is just really bad. So, if you can find a good situation and prove me wrong, I would gladly love that. Let's go. Benevolent Jinn is a really bad card. I'd say it's actually not a really bad card. It's just a bad card. It giving your hero 3 health. I guess it works with like the Spellstone, but that's pretty much it. Other than that, Temporis is a really bad card. I don't need to explain. Sonya Shadow Dancer is a meh card. It's tough to get the the effect off. Arcane Artificer, I'd give this a really good card rating actually, because it gives you health in a deck that the only health you have, other than through like a secret, would be from summoning Jaina, the Death Knight, which means that Arcane Artificer gives you health early game when you need it to stay alive. The next card, Arcane Tyrant, I think this card is oh fucking P because it's free. It is 0 cost in all the decks you're going to play it in. It's going to be 0 cost. You get just a free 4/4 elemental. It triggers your death rattle. It triggers your elementals on the next turn. Not your death rattles, what the fuck? No, but the point that I'm making is that any deck that runs a lot of big spells, like Big Mage or a Druid, or that also have card draw, like Big Mage and Druid, can run Arcane Tyrant, and then Arcane Tyrant is a free drop after they play a spell, which is really good. That's why I think it's an OP card, because it's free 4/4 in stats. Arcane Archivist, I think this card is I think this card is bad. I'll be honest, I think this card is bad. I don't like the text. I think it's very very 50-50-ish. You have to hope you get a spell that's good for the situation, and then you have to hope again that like the spell only impacts your opponent, and if it doesn't only impact your opponent, then you have to hope a third time that like the spell doesn't hit you. Like there's too many variables. Hoarding Dragon, this is a really bad card. Faldor Strider, I think this card is actually really good. This card pushes Miracle Rogue pretty hard, because if you drop 3 ambushes into your deck, when you drop Gadgets in and start using your spells, drawing an ambush actually counts as a spell when it activates, because it says, draw this card, cast this spell, and it triggers Gadgets and Auctioneer, which means that you get to draw an extra card, you get the 4/4, and there's 3 of these in your deck. If you get 2 of these Faldor Striders off, let's say early game you draw 2 of them or something, you now have 6 ambushes in your deck, which means that your Gadgetsins are going to be drawing you way more cards than it should be. So I think this card is very good in Miracle Rogue. Next, Voidlord. I think this card is oh fucking P. This card is insanely good. It has so much stalling potential. It's a demon, so it synergizes with the Death Knight for Gul'dan. The Blood Knight, what the fuck? The Death Knight for Gul'dan. And it's a Death Rattle, which means it also synergizes with N'Zoth. So summoning 1 Voidlord, and then bringing it all back with Gul'dan. I keep saying Gul'dan, but it's a Death Knight Gul'dan. I guess it's the same thing. I call it Death Knight Gul'dan, I guess. You bring them all back, and then you bring back your 3 1/1s with taunt, your Void Lords, maybe 2 Void Lords and 5 1/1 taunt, 1/3 taunts. And then let's say they get through all that somehow, then you N'Zoth back 4 Void Lords, because 4 of them died, so now you have 4 Void Lords, and you just get so much stalling potential. It's just, it's insane, Void Lord. Plus he synergizes with a lot of other cards. Hungry Etten, I give this card a bad rating. 2 mana, 2 cost minions typically have like 3 attacks, so you can consider this like a 4/7, and 6 mana 4/7 taunt isn't that great. Also, you have to think, well, does the 2 cost minion do something? Like, does the 2 cost minion have an ability that it could fuck me over with, etc., etc.? So you have to think about those things as well. Linus Sunsorrow. This card is very good. I give it a really good rating. But there's this thing I like to say. Never mind. No, not for this. We'll talk about it after. Linessa Sunsorrow has I give it a really good rating, because typically you have a lot of big spells that you're playing in Paladin. Like you have your +2/+6 and Death Rattle summon the 2/6 taunt. That you're playing your +4/+4 spells on minions. That's gonna buff your shit. Plus, also that you have another card we're talking about later that gives Divine Shield and lets you draw a card. So this card, Battle Cry, draws you a card, and it gives all the other stats. This card is really good. Next, we have Windshear Stormcaller. I'd have to give this card a meh rating, just because getting all the basic totems is going to be very difficult. There are ways to do such a thing with Elemental Shaman, but I don't think setting up your entire deck just to summon an Alakir slightly earlier in the game is worth it, and I think the inconsistency is definitely not worth it. So I give Windshear Stormcaller a meh, just because it's too specific a condition to meet. The next thing, Vulgar Homunculus. I give this card a good rating. Not a... I give this card a really good rating, because it is a 2 mana 2/4. Wait, why would I give it a really good rating? This card is just a good rating. You know what? No, 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 no. We're gonna backpedal up a bit. Okay, this is just a good rating. Okay, it's got really good stats. 3 mana for stats. You take 2 to the face, which is fine, but it's got demon synergy. I don't know. It's just got some good shit that's going on. Okay, let's go on to the next card. Kobold Librarian is oh fucking p. Any 1-cost card in the game that draws you a card, you play the shit out of that card. Doesn't matter what the hell you're doing. Doesn't matter what deck you're playing. You have a 1-cost card that draws you a card, you play that shit. Compare this to Novice Engineer. 1 less mana, 1 more attack, you play that shit. This compared to your hero power. 1 less cost and a body, you play that shit. Like, this card is busted as hell, okay? You can compare it to the Hunters in a while ago who used to play the Flare. Flare, I think it was called. Flare is what the card's called. It destroys all secrets, removes all stealth, and draws you a card. They used to play that too when fucking secrets weren't even part of the meta, just because it was a 1-cost draw card. Geosculptor Yip, I give this card a really bad rating. Lionel Manipulator, I give this card a good rate. I give it a good rating. Furbolg Mossbinder, I give this card a really bad rating. Elven Minstrel, I give this an OP fucking rating because drawing 2 minions from your deck's insane. Because you get to walk around the... Okay, let's talk about this in the context of Miracle Rogue, because that's what I want to talk about. I like talking about Miracle Rogue. We could talk about aggro as well, but Miracle Rogue, I think, is one of the shining aspects of this card. When you have Miracle Rogue, the goal is to Gadgeton into spell, into spell, into spell, into spell, into spell, and to constantly combo your spells together. Elven Minstrel, deck things you by 2. It gets 2 cards from your deck for 4 mana. It comes with a 3/2 body, and they're always minions. And because they're always minions, this means that you're loaded with more spells. This combos very well with the ambushes that we were talking about before. Gadgeton is just going to let you draw a crap ton of cards, which is going to be awesome. The next thing is Possessed Lackey. I give this card a good rating because it's only good in Control Warlock, Demon, Control, N'Zoth Warlock, and because it has some synergy with other cards. The problem is if you draw this card, it's on the meh/bad side because 5 mana 2/2 stats is really tough. But other than that, it's a good rating. I'd give it a good rating because of the synergy it has with other cards. Ixlid Fungal Lord. I give this card a bad rating. Too much mana for the stats. I understand you can combo it with the Twig, which we're probably going to see later because there's a separate section for weapons. I understand you can combo it with the Twig to get a shit ton of damage down and to blow shit up, but Ixlid it's too high of a mana cost on its own to make it a good card if you don't have the combo with the Twig, and the Twig being the only weapon in your deck, and it being the only one of the weapon in your deck, right? It's not a 2. You can't really expect to always be able to Ixlid weapon. And even with the amount of draw you have, if you're going for a combo deck, it's really hard to... If something you notice about combo decks, if you play them a lot, is that it's hard to survive if you have half your hand with combo pieces and the other half with removal. Because the half with removal is going to be for specific types of situation, as removal is, and the half of the combo pieces you can't play because you need them for your combo. And that hurts decks a lot. The next card, Ironwood Golem. I give this card a meh rating. The next card, Dragoncaller Alana. I give this card a really good rating. The reason it's not OP, even though it can give you up to 30/30 in stats, is because this card comes out extremely late in the game. It's at the end stages, and you can't curve this on 9. Because on turn 5, 6, 7, and 8, if you're playing only spells during that time, it's very possible your opponent just takes you out of the board. So it's hard for it's very situational for you to play this on curve and get like a full board, or to get like a lot of stats off on this. So I think you're playing this at around turn like 11 maybe, just to get like 3 or 4 big dragons. Because remember, you're also playing other cards in your mage deck. You're not just playing only spells. You need to be playing your draw cards to make sure you keep drawing, and other things as well. But I think this card is very good if you get it off with at least 3 5/5s, which is pretty easy. The next card we have is Dragon Hatcher. I think this is a meme card. This is a meh to bad card. More bad. I'm leaning towards bad with that card. Crystal Lion. Silverhand Recruits did not get really good support, but Crystal Lion is a really good card. This is something I was going to say before, but now I'm going to explain it very intensely. If you have a bazooka, but you give it to a 3-year-old, he doesn't know how to shoot it, okay? It's the same thing here. You give a 3 to 4 mana 5/5 with Divine Shield, that's insane. But you're giving it to a Silverhand Recruit deck. That's a really bad deck. That's not a great deck right now. That's not a great deck after this expansion either. It's probably mediocre. So it's like a really good card in an okay deck doesn't make the deck insane unless the card is unless the card affects the entire deck. So that's why Crystalline Lion is only a good card. Is a good card even though it's got Silverhand Recruit synergy. Greedy Sprite, I give this a meh rating. The reason why is because you already have 8 ramp spells in the deck. 8 ramp spells. And this ramp does not happen immediately. It's possible to get this ramp stalled out. And if you're stalling a ramp, then it's a worthless card. The point is to ramp as quickly as possible, to as high a mana curve as possible, to be able to play big cards while your opponent's still on their low curve. And you can't do that with Greedy Sprite because if they're playing, because you'll miss a turn. Because they won't trade into Greedy Sprite, you're gonna have to make the trade, meaning that you miss a turn because when you trade it, you'll just get an empty mana crystal, not a full one. The next one is Void Ripper. This card is bad. The next card is Murmuring Elemental. This card is really good. When I say really good, this is the same thing as before. We have a bazooka and we gave it to Shaman, but Shaman's still in his toddler diapers waddling around, trying not to shoot himself in the dick. Okay, Murmuring Elemental is really powerful card. It's insanely strong. It's cheap as hell. You can combo it with Fire Plume to make other Murmuring Elementals in your hand cheaper, and you can combo it with the 6 cost card that bounces the 6 cost elemental that bounces all other minions you have to your hand for 1. And you can do some crazy combos with Murmuring and Fire Plume to bounce the Murmurings back to your hand and have a bunch of Murmurings and Fire Plumes that cost 1 and 0. And then you can just spam a bunch of Battle Cries. And that's a crazy combo, but Elemental Shaman is just bad. So it can't really take advantage too much of the combos. But one of the reasons why I'm still giving it a really good rating is because you don't only have to play it in Elemental Shaman. You can play it on like turn 8 or something and then just double fire and then get 6 damage off of your 6/5 rather than only 3. Like you can there's a lot of value through this card. Next card, Astral Tiger. I think this card is meh. The reason why I think it's meh is because because it doesn't have great stats for a 4 cost, but it synergizes pretty well with a lot of the other recruit a 4 cost minion from your opponent from your deck. And the reason why recruiting a 4 cost minion from your deck is good is because the reason why Astral Tiger is good as a recruit 4 cost minion is because it shuffles itself back into the deck once it dies, or it shuffles a copy of itself back into the deck once it dies, which means that you can N'Zoth like 6 of these. But the point is that like Astral Tiger, when he comes out, he's not good enough as a 4-drop, and the problem is if you draw him, he's terrible because he's just worse than Yeti. Next card, Cave Hydra. I give this card a bad rating. Next card, Sewer Crawler. I give this card a bad rating. Next card, Scorpomatic. I give this card a meh rating. The reason why is because being able to destroy minions with 1 or less attack is good, especially if you have attack reduction. For example, in Paladin for 5 mana, you now have Assassinate with 4/5 stats. You can Aldor Peacekeeper into Scorpomatic any minion. Next, we have Wax Elemental. I give this card a really bad rating. Divine Shield is only good the later it is in the game. If you have Shield Bearer, the 4 health is better than the Divine Shield. Ebon Dragonsmith. I give this card a bad rating. Bad stats for a 4-drop, and weapons are not that important. Corrosive Sludge. I give this card a really bad rating. We have cheaper alternatives that also give us armor. Stoneskin Basilisk. I give this card a really bad rating. Divine Shield and Poisonous together sounds really good, but you have to understand that most hero powers can deal 1 damage to pop this Divine Shield, and then any AoE or spell or trade of a bad minion into this card is very much so gonna kill it. Next card, Green Jelly. I give this card a bad rating. It's just worse than Hogger. The next card, Dragon Slayer. I give this card a good rating, only because of the upcoming meta. People are going to be playing a lot of Dragon Priest, and Cobalt Skillbane is, sorry about that. I had almost coughed when I said Skillbane, my bad. Is a very rampant card that's very strong, so you want to be able to kill him, and this is a 3 mana 4/3, taking out 5 mana in stats, and still giving you the 4/3 body. That's very good. Next card is Toothy Chest. I give this card a really bad rating. Sneaky Devil gets a bad rating. Sleepy Dragon gets a... It has the dragon tag. I went on another website, on this guy's Tilt's website, and it didn't have the dragon tag, and I was confused. This is very nice. It does have the dragon tag, meaning that it's actually better. I give this card just a bad rating. Next we have Boistering Bard. I give this card a meh rating. I think it has potential in aggro decks. Next card, Violet Worm. I give this card a bad rating. Next card, Gravel Snout's Knight. I give this card a really bad rating. Fungal Mancer. I give this card a meh rating because giving other minions +2/+2 is very good. Bone Mare linearly giving 1 minion +4/+4 and taunt is good, but Fungal Mancer being able to spread the stats out on other people seems much better than before. It seems much better than stacking it all on one person who can get hexed or polymorphed. Obviously, this is a little bit more susceptible to AoE, but that's what you should be playing around. Also, this comes out earlier than the horse dude, which is a little bit better. When I say the horse dude, I mean Bone Mare, that's his name. Cursed Disciple, I give this card a really bad rating. It has 2 health. Shroom Brewer, I give this card a good rating. I think you're going to be playing this in Warlock decks for health, for healing. You can never underestimate healing, and I'm throwing out a bone saying, Shroom Brewer, don't let me down. Be good in Warlock. Next card, Trog Gloom Eater. I give this card a bad rating. We have Kobold Apprentice. I give this card a bad rating. Kobold Monk. I give this card a meh rating. Stops mages from bursting you down. That is the wrong button. Next card, Fungal Enchanter. I give this card a really good rating. It heals everything for 2 health, and it has good stats for a 3-cost card. This means that early trades are going to be much more efficient and in your favor, and not only that, but it also heals your face. Next card is Shrieking Shroom. I give this card a meh rating. If it survives, it's insane. If it doesn't, it will be useless. It is actually useless. The goal is to get at least 2 minions off this. And if you have the early game, you can keep it. You can get this thing going, especially if you open with something like a Voidwalker. The problem is though that this card takes some time to build up steam, but once it starts building up steam, that shit hits hard. Plated Beetle, I give this card a good rating. It doesn't heal you, it gives you armor. Every class has access to armor now. It has the beast tag, good stats for 2/3, and it can overheal you because armor. Master Oakheart, I give this card a overpowered fucking motherfucking rating that's broken as fuck. This card is insane in Control Warlock. And it's exactly why I gave the 5-mana 2/2 a good rating, because you can drop Master Oakheart and then pull out a Tar Creeper, you can pull out the 5-mana 2/2 that gets a demon from your deck, and you can pull out the 9-mana 3/9 who summons all the Voidwalkers. Why is that insane? Well, he not only deck thins you by 3 by removing 3 cards from your deck, but he also accelerates you into the 5-mana 2/2 who gets another card out of your deck, and he gives you a shit ton of taunts and sets up your death rattles for N'Zoth and for your Death Knight, which is insanely good. He might be good in other decks, but just the fact that he's that strong in Warlock makes me put him at an overpowered rating. Next card is The Darkness. This card is at a meh rating, only because you would play it if Raza Priest became over fucking powered, and then you just shut them the fuck down by denying them all the ability to play if you control no copies of cards in your deck cards. Next, Dire Mole. This card gets a really good rating. A lot of people were putting this as an over fucking powered rating. I would not. I'd put it as a really good rating because this card is very strong. It gives 2 decks, Aggro Druid and Aggro Hunter, early game pressure that is in the form of a beast card, which is really, really good. And 1-mana cards are freaking insane. So I'm going to give it a really good rating. But the problem is I can't justify to myself calling a card overpowered that has no text. Because I feel like an overpowered card has to do something on its own that makes it super busted. If a card relies on other things to make it broken, I think it can only cap out at really good. I've probably contradicted myself in this, but that's what I'm sticking with. Next card, Twilight Acolyte. I give this card an over fucking powered rating. Speaking of cards that require other cards to be good, whoops. let's forget about that. This card is over fucking powered. The reason why is because you can now kill not kill, sorry. You can now deny any high attack minion from doing anything. They got themselves an Aldor priest got themselves an Aldor Peacekeeper that works with all their two health or two attack or lower synergy cards like Potion of Madness, like Pain, Shadow Word Pain, and what's it called? Cabal. The dude the girl who steals the 2 attack minions, okay? That's what it combos with now. Not only that, but whoever you're giving the 2 attack to cannot even kill Twilight Acolyte because he's got 4 health. Next card, Gilded Gargoyle. I give this card a good rating. Why do I give it a good rating? Because I want to try a meme priest deck, and I'm going out on a limb here, and I'm saying Gilded Gargoyle is going to be better than I think it's going to be. And I honestly think it's a mech card, but I'm going to give it a good rating because there is another card in this set. Because on its own, giving yourself the coin is really nice because that combos really well with Gadgetson, and the reason why it can combo with other cards like the summon 2 Death Rattle minions that died in 1/1 form, and you can get a bunch of coins and then just start doing all kinds of coin gadgets and things. And I want to try doing that and seeing what I can do because that sounds really fun. So that's why I'm going to give it a good rating instead of a meh rating. Next card, Cavern Shiny Finder. I give this card a good rating. It just gets a weapon from your deck for 2 mana and it has good stats for a 2 mana card. 3/1 is not bad. If this was 3 mana, I'd call it really bad. But it's a 2 mana 3/1, which means it's actually not too terrible. Also, you're probably getting the legendary rogue weapon, which means that you can cycle to it very quickly. The next card, Hooked Reaver. I give this card a really good rating. In any type of warlock deck, you're always tapping and using hero power a lot of times, meaning that eventually you will always hit 15 or less health, whether you're ahead or behind. And this card will come out at like around turn 8 or turn 7, and it will have an impact because you're going to drop 2 of them. Next card is going to be Kobold Barbarian. I give this card a really bad rating. We have Gem-Studded Golem. I give this card a good rating. It is a 5/9 for 6 mana, which is very good as taunt in Control Warrior. Druid used to run a 7 mana 5/10 taunt that was super important for them to survive. This card is 1 less health for 1 less mana, and 1 mana is worth a lot more than 1 health. The attacking isn't really necessary because Control Warrior, if you give them an extra turn, are going to have removal. Next card, Dry Whisker Armor. I give this card a really good rating. The ability to gain armor off battle cries is insanely good, and we've seen that throughout all time in Warrior. We've had it with Shield Maiden. We've had it with the Cthulhu Warrior deck. We will now have it with Dry Whisker Armor. Versus aggro decks, we can gain up to 14 health, and that's considering and the only time where the 14 armor because it overheals. My bad. Gaining 14 armor, and because he costs so little, we can then follow up with taunts, removal, AoE, and then we have just gained ourselves a crap ton of health. The next card we have is Cobalt Illusionist. I give this card a bad rating. We have Corridor Creeper. I give this card a meh rating. We have Shimmering Courser. I give this card a meh rating. Cobalt Hermit. I give this card a meh rating because I don't think there is a way to accelerate out 4 basic totems and get the 5 cost down. It's the same reason I gave the other card a good/meh rating. I'm going to give this guy a meh/bad rating because him at best is a 1/1 with an O2 taunt. You can decide which one you pick, so obviously you'd always pick the O2 taunt because that's probably the best case scenario. But he costs 2 mana and not 1, and most 1-cost cards that are good have at least 4 stats total. He's a 2 mana card with 4 stats, meaning he's not as good. Next card, Wandering Monster. I give this Hunter Secret a meh rating. This is only reason I'm giving it a meh rating and not a good or bad rating is because it depends how frequently you can get a 4 health minion off the 3 cost. If getting a 4 health minion is very inconsistent, or getting a Death Rattle minion that is not good, getting a Death Rattle minion that is good is very inconsistent, then this card gets a bad rating. I give it a meh because I'm not sure on it yet, But the fact is that any 2-cost minion with 3 attack can kill this 3-cost minion, and if you are playing this card on turn 2, I will probably already have the board because I will be clearing your board and you played a secret. So, and the secret only triggers when I attack your hero. So I can keep the board tempo going and then I can just pick a random minion to attack into this. I understand you still have to play around the other secrets, but hitting this secret isn't very difficult. Like, if this secret always summoned a 1/4 or a 2/4, I would play it because I think it's good. If the thing has 4 health, it is good. If it doesn't have 4 health, it is pretty bad unless you get a good battle cry or a good conditional effect or something. Next card we have is Gather Your Party. I give this card a bad rating. Not really bad because you're getting most of the time 6 mana worth of stats out of this, but it's just you're not getting battle cries. Crushing Wall, I give this card a bad rating. Too expensive. A Sudden Betrayal, I give this card a bad rating. The only reason it's not really bad rating is because even though it's easy to play around, other rogue secrets are necessary so that your opponent can't play around all of them at the same time. I give Cheat Death a really good rating, because if you drop Cheat Death, your opponent's going to be afraid. If you drop a Rogue Secret, your opponent's going to be afraid to trade into your minions. Not only that, but your opponent's might be afraid to hit your face depending on what minions they have. They might have to end turn just like that for no reason. Cheat Death is one of those cards that if they do trade into your minion, most of your minions have crazy combo potential or battle cries or consistent effects like Gadgetson, and you get to, abuse the shit out of them. So that's why it gets a good rating. Then we have Branching Paths. I give this card, and this is the card I'm going to go out on a limb on. I give this card an O-fucking-P rating. Why? Because it is so versatile of a card that it encompasses every situation you can possibly encounter in the game with Druid, and it fixes whatever you need. It draws you cards if you need cards. It buffs your minions' attack if you need to trade. It gains you health if you need health. It can do either or. It can mix and match. You have every possible outcome with this card. This card is O-fucking-P, and if you think this card is bad, I don't know how else to explain it to you. I understand 4 mana to draw 2 cards seems kind of not that great. 4 mana to give your minions +1 attack each to Savage Roar seems like okay. 4 mana to gain 12 armor seems okay. But the fact that you have every single okay ability jam-packed into one card, so every niche situation where you need that draw, or you need that health, or you need that attack, you can just be like, I have it. That is just so good. If you need to trade on board and your minion is missing one attack, you can buff it by 1 attack and then cycle the card. It gives every version of Druid so much value. I think Branching Path is an insane card. This might be the card I'm wrong on, but I'm going out on a limb here and I really think it's an amazing card. Psychic Scream, I give this card an O-fucking-P rating. Dodges Death Rattles, fucks with your opponent's late game deck. It can even deny Raza Priest the ability to have multiple copies of a card if you were to shuffle in a card that they have one in their deck. Let's say they have their Loot Hoarder left in their deck, and you shuffle a Loot Hoarder into their deck because you left it on board on purpose. Well, now they cannot Raza anymore. Next card, Call to Arms. I give this card an O-fucking-P rating. This card is insanely good. The ability to pull 3 cards out of your deck, to deck thin by 3, develop the board by like 3 strong minions, and not only that, but on top of that, if these minions have Death Rattles, take advantage of those 2 is just freaking insane. What I was thinking personally was something where people were saying a lot about Murloc Pally, where you can get Murlocs out. Something you can also do with this is if you run Loot Hoarders and We Hunger for Vengeance, and then you Call to Arms to recruit out Loot Hoarders and We Hunger for Vengeances, and then they die and they draw you 3 more cards. And this, in the end, actually makes it so it's 4 mana, deck thin by 6, and now you have all the cards in your hand to do whatever you want with. I think that card is really insane. Primal Talisman. I give this card a bad rating. Death Rattle summon a random basic totem is not good enough. Next card, Lesser Amethyst Spellstone. I give this card a really good rating. Lifesteal for Warlock is what they need to heal, and it upgrades very easily by just taking damage. Most cards you're running take damage. By tapping, you take. Oh, from your cards. You can't tap and take it. But it's okay, because you have a lot of cards that deal damage to yourself. Especially if you're running a Control Warlock, you probably have Hellfires, Kobold Librarians, you have the 2/4, you have all kinds of ways to do this. Next card, Cataclysm. I give this card a really bad rating. It's only good in discard lock, and only if your opponent way overcommits to the board. Next card is Unstable Evolution. I give this card a meh rating. This card is not that great. It does let you control the evolve, which is really nice, but at the same time, it's not good. It's not as good as just evolve, because evolve hits everybody right away and gives you the immediate value on everybody. Unstable Evolution, you kind of have to commit a turn to it. Next card, Deck of Wonders. I give this card a bad rating. Evasion. I give this card a good rating. Reckless Flurry. I give this card a meh rating. The fact that you lose all your armor makes me so. If you lost half your armor, I would give it a good to really good rating. The fact that you lose all your armor makes it so difficult because you're losing health. To clear a board, you're hurting yourself, and that can be very painful. Why not just play something like Sleep with the Fishes, so you can keep your armor and still try clearing the board? That's why it only gets a meh rating. Next, Dragon's Fury. I give this card a good rating. Next, we have Twilight's Call. This is getting a meh to good rating, just like this is the card I was talking about that goes together with the Get a Coin card, where you summon 1/1 copies of 2 friendly Death Rattlemans that died this game, and you get a bunch of coins off this guy, and then you gadget him out like crazy for insane cycle into some OTK. I don't know. It'd be super cool to see. Next, we have Oaken Summons. I give this card a good rating. The problem is that it will never be played because it doesn't have the right 4 costs to pull out. All you have is the sprite, and you only have a few 4-cost minions to pull out. And if you pull out something that's less than 4 cost, it's not that great. The 6 armor on top of a good 4 cost would be good, but the problem is that I don't know if there's room in the Druid decks to be able to fit this card, plus 4 cost minions that are good, plus you have to not draw them, plus you have to draw this card. There's just so many things that you have to work about, that this thing has to be in its own deck sort of to make it good, I think, at least. The only time I see this card getting value in a regular Jade Druid deck is if you get it and you Fandral with it, and you get Fandral off it. But other than that, it's just good. It's good because of what it does, but there aren't any 4 costs to take advantage of, so that's why it's good. Next, we have To My Side. This card gets a meh rating because even though it's a very strong card, it doesn't have actually, you know what? No, we gave this card a good rating, even though it doesn't have the deck. This card is better than To My Side is better than Oaken Summons. I give To My Side a good rating because with the proper Spell Hunter deck, once they get early game spells, this deck will be able to flourish and be very strong. And To My Side, as you're going to see, is going to be a very big card on turn 6. Barkskin, I give this card a really bad rating. Shifting Scroll, I give this card a bad rating. Potion of Heroism, I give this card a really good rating. The fact that you get to draw a card for 2 mana and you get the Divine Shield, plus when you use your 7-cost 1/1 that gets all the buffs on it, you get to draw again because of it. Potion of Heroism seems like a card that's just too good not to run. The next card we have is Level Up. I give this card a meh rating. Quartermaster is really good, would have got a really good rating, but that's because it has a body attached with the stats. Level Up does not have a body attached with the stats, even though they both cost the same amount. Also, giving your Silverhound recruits taunt isn't necessarily good, because sometimes you want to keep your Silverhound recruits alive or whatever. Forcing the taunt on all of them doesn't seem like the best situation. If this card cost a little bit less mana, we would see it at a much higher rating. Psionic Probe, I give this card a meh rating. Crushing Hand, I give this card a meh rating. Healing Rain, I give this card a good rating because it's a lot of healing. Dark Pact, I give this card a good rating because, again, it's a lot of healing, and it's very easy to trigger. Next, I give Explosive Runes a good rating because it's better than Mirror Entity, because Mirror Entity, they have to play around it by playing low-cost cards, meaning that if they play something very small, you'll kill the thing, and you'll deal damage to their face, all for 3 mana. So I give this card a good rating. The only problem is Divine Shield. Sad life. Flanking Strike, I give this card a good rating. The problem is, again, we're waiting for Spell Hunter to get their early game. Lesser Jasper Spellstone, I give this card a really good rating. It is very easy to upgrade this card, and 1 mana, 6 damage is insanely strong. Lesser Sapphire Spellstone, I give this card a really bad rating. Costs too much mana, and overloading with this card in your hand sucks. Lesser Mithril Spellstone, I give this card a meh rating. Too hard to trigger if you draw a weapon before you actually have that card in your hand. Lesser Ruby Sightstone. I give this card, again, a meh rating. Elementals aren't that strong. Elementals aren't strong. Sorry. Ugh. Mage has multiple ways to play it now, and Lesser Ruby Spellstone will not be a part of any of those ways to be playing it. Lesser Ruby Spellstone does have some synergies with some other cards, but the problem is that the Elemental tag forces you to play Elementals with the Lesser Ruby Spellstone, and there are Elemental decks that are just better than without this card than with it. The RNG element is good at 2 mana once you get the full upgrade, but before that, it's kind of a dead card, and you can't really afford to have too many dead cards in this meta. Excuse me. Lesser Pearl Spellstone. I give this card a bad rating. Emerald Spellstone. I give this card a good rating, but again, we're still waiting for Hunter to get that early game. Fuck. Hiccups OP, dude. I give Lesser Onyx Spellstone a bad rating. Lesser Diamond Spellstone. I give this card a bad rating. Unidentified Elixir. I give this card a good rating, but there is no deck that it can see play in because there is no deck that there's no buff priest deck that can utilize this enough. Unidentified Maul, I give this card a meh to good rating. The reason why is because it's a 50-50 if it's really strong, and it's only good in Silverhand Recruit decks. Next, Unidentified Shield. I give this card a good rating. It's a very good card in Control Hunter and Control Warrior. What the fuck, Control Hunter? XD. Aluneth. I give this card a really good rating. I don't think it's broken. I think it's very good. I think that people will be playing removal. Weapon removal. If people do not play weapon removal, this card turns into O fucking P, because there's only 2 ways this card plays out. Either you get to draw 3 cards and then he destroys it, or you get to draw like 6 cards and it already got all the value. The reason why this is very important is because if there's a lot of weapon removal in the game, or if everybody's running at least 1 ooze, what they're going to do is they're going to have the ooze in their hand, and they're just going to wait till you Aluneth. And then once you Aluneth, they're just going to ooze it right away. You'll get your 3 draws for 6 mana, but then the mana cost isn't worth it, right? It all depends on that. I think people are going to play at least 1 Toxic Ooze in every single deck. I think most decks are going to play at least 1 of them. If decks don't play Toxic Ooze, then this card turns into O fucking P. And that's how it is going to be for every single weapon. Every weapon is at a current thing, so it's either OP, really good, meh, bad, or really bad. And it goes up 1 stage if Ooze isn't played at least 1 in every deck, and it stays its initial stage if Ooze is played. So Aluneth right now really good, but if Ooze isn't played, it turns to O fucking P because of how much you draw. Dragon Soul. This card is good, but that's because if Ooze is played, then this card is only good. If Ooze is not played, this card turns to really good in Raza Priest. There's a lot of combos you can do with coin and other spells that you can add together to basically get a lot of value out of Dragon Soul. Not to mention that spam coin Gadsden thing I was talking about before, which would be pretty fun to do. Rune Spear. I give this card a I'd give this card a really bad rating, because if Ooze is in the game, this card is horrible, and if Ooze isn't in the game, then this card is bad. Twig of the World Tree. I give this card a good rating if Ooze is in the game. Actually, I give this card this is the only exception to the weapons, because even if it's destroyed, unless they destroy it and mind game you, because again, you can have coin, you can have innervate, ways to ramp out your Medivh to get the weapon out. I give this card a really good rating no matter. Oh. Skull of the Manari, I give this card a bad rating. Valinir, I give this card a meh rating, meh to good, because this card is only as good as how many times you can tick it, and I don't know if it's going to be good enough to be able to get 2 to 3 ticks off of the +4/+2 and the weapon charge. Next we have Kingsbane. I give this card a good rating. It is really good without Ooze, and it's really good without Ooze and good versus Ooze, because the Kingsbane, the point is you buff it a shit ton, and then it keeps getting value from you hitting minions, hitting his face, whatever it is, and then you would shuffle it into the deck, and then you'd search it out again. So yeah, Kingsbane is a very good card. It's a good card. if Ooze is in the game, because even if you search it back out and activate it again, once it has all its buff and it keeps the attachments, and you give it the extra thing, and you get that one swing off, if they Ooze it, well, now you lost it again, so you have to go through your deck again to go for it, and you've already wasted quite a few cards trying to enchant it, right? So that's why I think it's good when Ooze is there, because it's still good, it still gets the value, it always gets a hit off because weapons can be immediately used, but it's really good if Ooze isn't in the game because you're constantly getting value out of it. The next card is Bladed Gauntlet. I give a meh rating because if Ooze is in the game, when you drop Bladed Gauntlet, if you get a bunch of armor off of a card like Dry Swinger, or the 2-cost card, or any card that gives you armor, you can start clearing a bunch of stuff, or 2 minions, pretty easily. But it's just the fact that with Ooze in the game, even if you try setting, you won't have time to really set up the armor. Even if you have time to set up the armor, you're not going to get the second charge out of this card, which is pretty important to make this card good, because it is only a 2 durability weapon, and it costs a card in your hand, and Warrior kind of doesn't have too much draw if you don't have the right set of cards in your hands, and I don't know, it just doesn't have enough weapon charge for me to justify saying that it's a really good card, even without at any point in time. So it should be just like a good card. It is just a good card, and with Ooze in the game, it turns to just meh. Let's get to the next thing. Roque Dalar. If your deck has no minions, fill your hands with Hunter spells. I give this card a meh rating if your opponent has Ooze, and a good rating if your opponent does have Ooze. But again, we are waiting for the early game for Spell Hunter. Next, Candle Shot. I give this card a bad rating because wasting a very precious card in your hand as Hunter, a deck that doesn't have much draw, a deck that is very reliant on just committing to the board really hard and then just hero powering your opponent down, needs as much card advantage as it can in its hand. It needs as many cards in its hand that does as much as possible. Candle Shot doesn't do a lot. 1 damage that can't change to more, to 2, to 3, isn't a card that you're really looking for trying to play in. Instead of Candle Shot, like for example, if you compare this to other 1 attack minions in a Hunter deck, they're all beasts. They have beast synergy, so they can get buffed, they can get changed, they can get they basically have ways to improve their stats. Candle Shot does not. And people saying, oh, well, Hunter is missing a way to ping minions off. Well, maybe, but at the same time, like, a Hunter that's being aggressive, remember, you're giving up a card in your hand just so you can ping a minion off. That card in your hand could be a Houndmaster. It can be the 1-drop you were looking for. It can be the board pressure that you needed before to be able to actually... Because if you're missing 1 damage to ping something off, well, you had to attack into something to bring it down to 1 health. Well, if you could have never attacked into something to bring it down to 1 health because you drew Candle Shot instead of the minion that attacked into it, then you can't really sort of ping it down with Candle Shot is the point I'm trying to make. Next is Woe Cleaver. After a hero attacks, recruit a minion. Well, Woe Cleaver, I give a bad rating, and it's only meh if Ooze isn't in the game, because 8 mana is a hell of a lot to be paying for a 3 damage weapon, and if you recruit a bad minion off the first shot, then you are pretty fucked, sir. You have to really hope for a good second minion. The next card, and that is the end of the cards, correct? Is that all of them? Weapons. That is the whole set, I'm pretty sure. If you guys enjoyed it, this has been my Kobolds and Catacombs review. The end of the video kind of got cut out, so I thank you guys for watching it. What I was going to say was I'm going to make another video very soon, right after I play like a bit of the game, and I'm going to say what my favorite cards are, and what cards I think are going to be the biggest impact in the game, maybe a weekend or whatever. But there's going to be a follow-up video where I talk about some of the combos I made, some of the, just to talk about the decks I'm testing, and just to talk about how the game's going. So I thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I'll see you guys next time. Ciao.